Welcome now to the Imus Morning program. The former mayor of Woodville, Texas, a prominent dentist there in East Texas, Congressman Brian Babin. Good morning, Congressman Babin.
Yes, sir. Good morning, man. How are you doing?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
I couldn't be better. It's great to be on your show again.
Well, thank you very much. You sound like you're in a barrel, are you?
Well, I tell you what. Let me pick this phone up.
Yeah.
That's the style.
How about now? Can you hear me?
That's much better. Were you on a speakerphone?
Yeah, we were on a speakerphone. I was sitting here in my office here in the Capitol.
Well, it's not going to work, so.
No, this is fine.
Yeah. So, is it what you expected?
Well, you know what it is. It's pretty much what I expected. It's a very challenging thing, but at the same time, man, it's very exciting.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like being waterboarded or drinking through a fire hose.
Yeah. Well, when you first get there, do they have? How do you know what to do?
Well, they have orientation. We came up here for a week of orientation, and they send you a lot of publications. And I'll tell you, the best thing to do is to have a great staff, and we do.
Yeah.
And we also have made some real good, close friends up here and our colleagues, and they will tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And where to go and where things are and of course, the way things work.
So at this, in the nascent stages of your tenure there, is this a situation that you think, Congressman Babin, think that you can actually make a difference?
I think we can. I think we already are. In the first 3 weeks, we passed about 20-something pieces of legislation. We passed, in fact, one of the biggest issues in my district was Obamacare, health care, and that was of great concern to a lot of people who are losing their health care policies and their doctors. And I promised that I would vote to repeal the Affordable Care Act, and I did. And so we did that. We sent it over to the Senate, where we sent many bills, and things will just work a lot slower in the Senate than they do in the House. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. We did get the Keystone Pipeline passed, and that's going to the president's desk. So we'll see how that turns out.
He's vowed to veto it, right?
Well, he said so.
Yeah.
But, we had a lot of Democrat support for that bill. And so I think he's going to have a lot of explaining to do when he does veto it, if he decides to do that.
Well, 17 till the hour, we're talking with Congressman Brian Babin, who is the father of a real American hero, Leif Babin, former Navy SEAL. And he and Jocko, the head of Echelon Front, LLC, is a wonderful company that you can call them or go to their website, and they'll come over to your company and straighten you folks out. Have you do it like these Navy SEALs do, and they figured out a way to do it pretty well anyway.
That's exactly right.
Do you think, Congressman Babin, the President yesterday asked y'all for authorization to provide weapons or troops or both to fight ISIS? What's your position on that?
Well, you know what, I just don't think as the way that his request was presented to us, I'm going to have a hard time supporting giving him that. It's weak, it's short term, but on the other hand, it also ties the hands of the next president. And it telegraphs again. This man is famous for telegraphing what his plans are, and I think that's bad news. I support going after ISIS. These folks are, they're pure evil, and they're killing Christians and anyone who doesn't sign up for their type of their particular brand of Islam.
Yeah.
But the real question is, what's the language of this authorization of force going to look like? What parameters are they going to put on it? And most important, is the president going to be all in for it? And quite frankly, I don't see that happening.
When you say all in, does that mean ground troops?
Yeah, according to what we've seen, he's not going to put any ground troops in there.
Yeah.
If we don't have ground troops,
and you support that, do you?
Yeah, I don't see that. I just don't see him doing that. We've had over 5,000 Americans give their lives in Iraq and Afghanistan, and only to have the president display weakness. He just kind of half-heartedly got engaged here, which has ultimately led us to lose all these gains that so many Americans have fought for, including my own son. With SEAL Team 3 in 2006, his team and the ones that fought with him helped turn the big city of Ramadi around. Yeah. And I'm not sure that President Obama has it in him to take on this evil force ISIS, and in the manner that's going to be required for it to succeed. And quite frankly, if we're going to ask America's men and women in uniform to go fight, then let's remember that it's only when we're fully equipped, and fully committed, that they're going to have the ability to really succeed and win the war.
Speaking of arming somebody and giving them the ability to be fully equipped to fight, what do you think we should do regarding arming the Ukrainians?
Hey, listen, I had the great privilege of sitting in the gallery. I hadn't been sworn in yet, but I did hear President Poroshenko when he addressed the joint session a few months ago, asking President Obama for armaments. And I thought it was one of the most eloquent speeches I've ever heard. And my heart goes out to these Ukrainians, and I think that we should be arming these people, and with heavy arms. I think this is what they're going to have to have in order to win and keep their country from being carved up by the Russians under Putin. But I don't see the president having the strength and force of character to arm these people properly.
You think that leads to a ground war and a real war for the United States with Russia?
I don't think it does, because the Russians have, they've got ulterior motives, and not just the Ukrainians. This is my opinion, but I think a lot of people in the know share this opinion, that this is not going to be the final thing that the Russians have in mind.
Yeah.
And I think if we don't help stop them, and the Ukrainians are more than willing, they're begging us for armaments, and they can help themselves. And quite frankly, I think we ought to be coming forth with the military supplies that are necessary for them to be able to fight this effectively and keep their country and keep it intact.
Not that I didn't think so before, but man, you really sound like you know what the hell you're talking about. You know that? This is great.
Well, man, I appreciate it. I'm a dentist, but we have a way to get to the root of problems. And I'm a veteran. I served in the Army and in the Air Force.
I know you did.
And this is, to me, this country is facing a lot of problems. But one of the gravest problems, or gravest situations we have, I think, is a military that's been on the decline under this president, with sequestration, with cuts in expenditures, with a lack of focus, with a foreign policy that seems geared to make us a second-rate nation in the world. And so I feel very strongly that this military of ours needs to be very similar to what President Reagan did back in the early 80s.
I'll tell you what I'm thinking as I listen to you talk. Again. You know what I'm thinking?
What's that?
I'm thinking Senator Babin. That's what I'm thinking.
Well,
all right, I'm going to have to leave it there. Congratulations. Pleasure to have you on. We'll call you back. Congressman Brian Babin here to have my program.